Okay, we are going on a ride. Maybe a little nostalgia. We're going to get into all kinds of ethics. Yes, today's guest, Anita Ford Saunders. Oh, I said that with like kind of a British accent for some reason. That's kind of cool. Anita Ford Saunders, APR. She is an icon at PRSA in communications in the industry. She is leaving and still creating an incredible legacy for so many of us who are continuing communications work to continue to co-create with her and to build upon what she has started. And I can't wait for you to hear her story and get to know her work, and for all of us to learn from and continue to build on the ideas that she has been working on and that she has put into policy, through her work in various community organizations like the NAACP, which we will get into, as well as the PRSA. So Anita and I actually met in the summer of 2020 when I was invited to be a part of a panel that PRSA's DEI committee, is that right, Anita? That that y'all were putting together.
Yeah.
And some way, somehow y'all found me. And I immediately said yes. And admittedly, it was the very first panel I've ever been on where I'm the only white person. And I got that experience, and I'm so grateful for it. And it was so popular, that webinar, with the amount of registrations that you, Alicia, Demi, me, we brought the band back together and we did another one, which would continue to be even more popular. So that's how we got to meet. And then when The Conscious Communicator, The Fine Art of Not Saying Stupid Shit was coming out, we were looking for testimonials. I immediately thought of Anita, who wrote the longest, most passionate and emphatic testimonial for the book. Anita, please introduce yourself to everybody so we can get to know you a little bit.
Oh, great. Thanks so much for having me, Kim. I am and always will be Anita Ford Saunders, APR. I am born and raised in Connecticut. Family, my legacy is down south. Both my parents came from Georgia. I have been in this business for quite some time, over 40 years, but I didn't start in public relations. I started in broadcasting. I knew that I wanted to change things. I wanted to change images and what I saw. So I decided that I wanted to go into communications and to broadcasting to change images on television. I've always been that kind of change person. You're looking at the person, the 16-year-old who got together and took over a building in high school because we wanted a Black Studies program. Always doing something different, always doing something, Anita. So that was always kind of in my DNA. I thank my mom for that. Majored in communications, came back here to Connecticut, worked at a station CBS affiliate, WFSB, and never really wanted to be on air. I always wanted to be behind the scenes because I knew that that's where the power was. That's where decisions were made. Production assistant, took a job in Detroit as an associate producer. It's a little step up, and worked on game shows and talk shows, live entertainment shows. It was a larger market. The Hudson's Day Parade, live events, which was great experience. The Hudson's Day Parade in the rain, and going to the airport in a limousine with Soupy Sales, and he helped me do my hair. It was raining. So Soupy Sales was from Detroit, and so he was like the grand master of the parade.
Okay.
And he said to me, I was going home. He says, "You want to ride to the airport?" I'm like, "Well, sure." So we get into his limousine, and my hair is soaking wet, and I'm trying to do it, and he's helping me. He's helping me curl my hair. I'll never forget it. What a sweet guy he was. He really
Yeah.
was. So left Detroit, came back home, worked at a station in Springfield, Massachusetts, a very, very small station, Channel 40. Very interesting people there. If anybody remembers WKRP in Cincinnati,
Oh, yeah.
um,
Yeah. I do.
they were, yeah, we
Yeah.
had a sales guy kind of like that, and
Okay.
yeah, and I kind of knew, you run into these situations, and I knew it maybe wasn't the place for me when I heard him on the phone with a client saying, "If you don't hear from me, I'll be in touch." I'm like, "What? What does that even mean?" You
Right.
know? I'm like, I think I need to move on from here. Came back to Hartford, worked at the NBC affiliate in public relations. Applied for a couple of jobs within the station, went into public affairs, produced a lot of programs, won another Emmy there for a show, Black Perspective. And left.
Wait. You want an Emmy?
Yes, yeah,
You're
yeah. I want to
you're just
be.
saying that like you just
No,
had,
I went to
turkey for
throw away.
lunch. So I just just want to kind of you want an Emmy.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I won an Emmy in part of a team that won an Emmy in Detroit as well for a kids show called what was that show called? It wasn't Double Dip Sunday. It was Super Kids. Won an Emmy here in Connecticut at Channel 30 for a program, Black Perspective, that I was doing. And then decided, I don't know why, to leave the business and go into sales at the phone company
Huh.
in Yellow Page sales, because I knew that would help build my character, like I needed anything else to help build my character. But it was very interesting. I left for a couple of years, did Yellow Page sales. People probably don't even remember what the Yellow Pages were. It was tough. It was really a tough gig. Got a call from the Urban League, from a woman who was the executive director of the Urban League. She asked me to come be her PR director, PR and development director. Left Yellow Pages. Oh dear, so sad. But left Yellow Page sales, went
Because
to
the
the
growth in
Urban.
that market was, up and to the right, right? But, it was a tough decision to pivot.
Yeah, yeah. And so, when it was good because I could go back into the city and work with people that I knew, my own community,
Mm,
um, and work on building things in the community that the Urban League was doing with education or health or
mhm,
housing,
mhm.
things of that nature, really helping people out. And I enjoyed that a lot, and didn't think that I was going to get back into broadcasting at all, but got a phone call. It's interesting how my career has worked. It's always been this phone call, never really, maybe a couple of times seeking a job, but most often getting a phone call saying, "Hey, would you be interested in this job?" In particular, when I went to Connecticut Public Broadcasting, or it was really CPTV, Connecticut Public Television, I thought they were calling me to get a recommendation for someone else.
Okay.
So I start the phone conversation talking about this individual because they
Mhm.
had contacted me and said, "Yeah, I applied for this job." And I'm going on, I'm glowing, and the president stopped me and he says, "No, we were talking about you coming." And so I felt I absolutely needed to tell the person that I was going to be the reference for what was going on. They were fine with it. Ended up going to CPTV, spent several years there where we premiered UConn women's basketball, which changed women's basketball in broadcasting.
Mm.
Uh, it was the number one program on public television. It, go figure. And people were like, "This is wait, masterpiece theater? No, 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 no. It was basketball. It was basketball." So, my career grew there. I started doing on air things. left there for another opportunity working with the foundation, then started my own business, stayed there for doing my own business for 10 years, and then went back into the dark side. My husband retired. So it's like, okay, it's time for me to, carry the load, carry the insurance load, went back into a corporation, utility, and big business,
Mm-hmm.
corporations, not the place for me.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make me happy. I was very sad walking into the door.
Mm-hmm.
And as this is kind of like a meandering, you know, left there, went to United Way, had a great time. Then worked for a director, a woman who is a producer, director, writer, Black women in medicine. This Crystal Emery is quadriplegic, and she produced this documentary, Black Women in Medicine. And because she could not travel, I traveled a lot for her to film festivals and things of that nature. My last gig was Trinity College, Director of Advancement Communications, working with communications and their fundraising department, helping them tell their story. And so-called retired and went back into my own business after about 3 years there at Trinity. So here I am.
What an incredible, incredible career.
Mm.
Oh my gosh. And there was so much in there that I did not know. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, and thank you again for this incredible testimonial that you did in the book. The very first thing you write in it is communication professionals and organizations have waited for quite some time for a book like this. The problem is we haven't realized it yet.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
tied to that career and all the contacts and all the work that you've done in all the various industries, what do you mean by that? The problem is we haven't realized it yet as communicators.
Yeah, you get into a job and you have to balance your beliefs and what's in your soul with what the organization that you were representing. And it always felt like we were on the cusp of breaking through and communicating, but never able to get over that hump, never able to put a stake in the ground and say, it wasn't a risk for me, but to them it would have been a risk to say certain things, to do certain things. And it just, we were just never able to get over that with any of the positions I think that I had. Maybe with public broadcasting, we did a lot of great things at Connecticut Public Television. But in other organizations, it was just real tight, and so those above us didn't even know that there was something on the other side, that there was light at the end of the tunnel, So I think that's what I was talking about, that we didn't even know it, because you don't know what you don't know
Mm-hmm.
unless somebody gives it to you, somebody hands it to you. And I felt that the book was like a primer, this is, step by step. Think about this step by step in everything that you're doing. And we need that. We really do need that sometimes. I needed that because DEI was kind of dropped on us. It started way, way back. It was maybe called affirmative action. And we were all kind of swimming around. What do we, how do we manage this? How do we manage people? How do we communicate with this? People were afraid to communicate. And I felt the book was a great foundation for people to open up and really start doing some hard work. So
Thank you. Thank you for that. That means a lot. And I'm glad that you touched upon how DEI has this past over decades. In particular, touching communications and the way one of the things that the book is really trying to teach communicators is to understand the difference between what is performative communications, where is it coming from, what does it look like, And what do we do to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
Because so many communicators think that they're communicating correctly or doing the right thing when they're communicating, changing a logo to a rainbow in June, for example. Like they think they're doing the right thing. And this was to say, to your point, they don't know what they don't know. And it's to introduce, because statistically, people who are in-house communicators look like me. And so we don't have that lived experience. We haven't had the conversations. We haven't had the challenges. We've had some as women, but not the same as a variety of other communities. So we're coming from a lens that my mentor calls majority coding, CODING. And so when a client comes to me and says, which has actually happened, hey, we're getting this feedback that we write for a white audience and we don't understand what that means. That's the kind of conversations we need to have, because that's the kind of feedback that does need to be taken seriously, because it's what it's doing is it's demonstrating ways that we can get better and better as communicators, specifically around telling the story of outcomes and mutual benefit that diversity, equity, and inclusion can provide. So what are some of the kind of stories of where DEI has been, and where do you see kind of the narrative DEI needing to go given our current social context where there's a lot of leaders that are kind of leaning back? When they leaned in, now they're leaning back. And as many people have heard me say before, and this is the same thing that my mentor taught me, is that progress isn't linear, it's a spiral. So we're going back, but we're coming around the corner, and it's going to thrust us forward. So for us to be a part of that, like, what can we learn from mistakes, or how do we build on improvements and continue the progress of being able to tell an accurate and beneficial and inclusive story around diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Other people need to be at the table. That's, I think, a crucial issue and problem, that people of color are not at the table. When things happen, when performative things happen and you get blowback, it's always, oh my God, I didn't know. Who was in the room? And even if there was a person of color in the room, that one person of color in the room, did they have the support to courageously say, no, I don't think we should do that. Or no, you're not going to do that. And, a lot of that comes with, with being seasoned. At my stage in my career, I think I said it in our session, I'm not afraid of much. Okay. I'm really not afraid of much. I like spiders. Okay. But I'm not afraid of much. So being able to courageously say, no, that's not going to fly, is, I can say that with confidence and walk out of a room without fear. A lot of times we are not in situations where we can say those things. So there needs to be more than one person of color in the room. There needs to be someone who is differently abled in the room. There needs to be, but then that you have to step back and, okay, an organization, who have you hired? And if there are not people on that particular team that represent that, bring people in, let them know, understand that you are a valuable part of this organization. And decisions that we make have to include all of us, all of our thought, and take time with it. Besides putting up the black circle or blue circle or rainbow circle, square, whatever it is. You mentioned things being circular. It's a little scary for me because I understand that. If we look back on history, I want to get Rachel Maddow's book, but I'm a little afraid to read it because I don't want to be freaked out. But looking back at history, things are they come back around, and I'm just a little frustrated waiting for them to come back around.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing what I can do to hurry that up in communicating. In my position now, and I know that we were going to talk about that as I won this election as president of the NAACP for Middlesex County in Connecticut. I've spoken out a lot without fear of any repercussions, and I don't care. You come at me. I'm not afraid of that, because somebody has to say something. Somebody has to be able to communicate with authenticity, with truth, with courage. And if I'm able to touch someone or some group of someone's that will say, "Oh yeah, you're right about that," or "Let me think about that um, a little bit deeper," then I will continue to do that job. DEI will continue to be pushed. DEI, and belonging. It's. I'll continue. I will just continue.
And so, talk about how you got involved with PRSA and the DEI committee, because that was one of the avenues where you did, put something together that is incredibly meaningful and is now a touchstone for thousands of communicators to take as a framework and guidance.
So, I got a phone call. I can't even remember.
Oh, it's the phone call again.
Yeah, it's a phone call. I cut my phone off. I'm like, oh, yeah, no problem. And from the chair of the board at the time, trying to remember. I see your face. I apologize. About the DEI committee, I wasn't really involved in it. And Shanita Akintande, Baraka Akintande, was the chair. It started off as this multicultural committee, like many committees. I didn't know much about it. I wasn't a part of it. And then Shanita, I tease her and always say she shot us out of a cannon. And okay, this is what we're going to do here. This is what diversity, and we were the D&I committee,
Okay.
diversity and inclusion. We didn't have the equity piece in that. And we engaged our D&I chapter liaisons, brought them together on a monthly basis to talk about what they were doing, issues they were having, sharing resources, that kind of thing. And then we said, okay, wait a minute, we need to have a strategic plan. It was the only committee, to my knowledge, that had a strategic plan. And now in comes Felicia Blow, then Andrea Gills Monzon. And, we were very strategic about leadership, and we'd have vice chairs. And then one of those vice chairs would be chair with the person who was the chair, with one of the chairs before. Shanita was one, but we decided we needed two after that. It was a lot of work. We did research. Felicia pushed a survey, making sure that we had a survey. So we had some research behind what we were doing, some data, and it just started to build. And we decided, okay, the webinars that we're going to have, the diverse dialogues is what we decided to call it. And, in the very beginning, we were performative. In June, we would have whatever month it was. In March, it was Women's History Month. And, October was DEI month, and then Hispanic Heritage Month, September, September into October. So we had a framework that we could work by, and we created a toolkit to send out to chapters so they would have information on language, on resources that they might need to expand their chapters, their particular chapters. I wasn't sure what everybody else was doing. I didn't know what everybody else was doing. I didn't know what the other committees were doing. I knew only what we were doing. And we had a new professional section. We built that strategic plan very carefully. And then very carefully, when Andrea and I became co-chairs, began to just kind of check things off on that plan, but also make sure that the PRSA board, understood that this committee was different. This committee was a resource for them in dealing with all of these issues because we were smacked in the face when George Floyd was murdered. And when we did that webinar, over 1,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
people needed to talk, people needed to hear, people needed to find solutions to what they were feeling and what they needed to say to their employees and their audiences. So people were very hungry. So I think that absolutely helped catapult us to a priority for the board. It kind of, when I was on the board, I served on the board, DEI was important, but it was never a major chunk of what was being done. There were so many other things that needed to be done, PRSA for our members. The DEI committee specifically targeted HBCUs and HSIs, historically Black colleges and universities, and Hispanic serving institutions. We wanted to be sure that there was a connection between chapters and any of those schools that were in their particular area, so that students would have resources, would have professional resources. It's tough, making sure that those students get to PRSA conferences. So, we really focused a lot on students of color. And then the foundation, the PRSA Foundation, we were always, as PRSA, okay, we got to raise money. Let's, just call people. Can you give us $25? Can you do this? Again, I credit Shanita, I credit Felicia in helping really step this up. We had a campaign. This was during COVID. I can't remember. I think Shanita called it 2120. It had something to do with the year and wanted all chapters to contribute $210 or $220 to the foundation. And it was pretty successful. This was during Icon, when Icon, we were supposed to be, I don't know, probably, I think, in Nashville that year. And we did it virtually. We raised money virtually. And it also started with Minneapolis. PRSA Minneapolis gave us money as a foundation to build an endowment.
Mm.
So I got to give props to Minneapolis, Marsha Pitts Phillips and her colleagues there. They gave us money to endow what we're doing. So we still need money for to add to the endowment, but it's not like robbing Peter to pay Paul. Now we have money to give to students so that they can do the things that they need to do and be educated correctly when it comes to public relations. So we were doing a lot, we were really doing a lot. And I'm just not sure that any other committee was doing that. And I think the board realized this is important and that almost this committee should not exist. It should be PRSA.
Yeah, that's how you roll.
Right. Yeah, this is the PRSA. When it comes to statements, we kind of had a little back and forth about that. We as the committee would make a statement, and then I would step back and say, "Whoa, that's not our job. That's your job, PRSA, to come out with a statement." And so it was a little bit of a struggle because PRSA had never taken that responsibility when it came to DEI. And they embraced it.
Beautiful.
They absolutely embraced it. It's just that it had never been really pushed before, and we pushed that and pushed. We can be a resource, and we are. so it is part of the PRSA plan, strategic plan, and we continue to serve as a resource to the board.
And we got to serve as co-facilitators in this last PRSA Icon in October of 2023. We co-facilitated a conversation, a workshop around influencing organizations on social justice messaging. And it was such an honor to co-facilitate and co-speak with you. It was so fun.
It was
And
fun. It was.
you know, we both thought, are we going to cuss when we talk? And yep, we sure did. We're both very passionate about this work.
Yeah.
And there was quite a few students in the room that came up to us afterwards. We handed out books, we signed, and we had, I think there was only 10, 15 people that didn't take a book, that had to leave early. Everybody in the room took a book. And so the conversation has already continued beyond the session. There's definitely life after that. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from people sending me messages on LinkedIn. I hope you've gotten a lot of love as well.
Yep, I have.
Hopefully we get a chance to do it again. I think we're quite a team.
I love
Yeah, that was really fun. But one thing we didn't get a chance to really catch up on when we saw each other in Nashville is all the work you're doing with NAACP. Now, you've sent me some things that have happened in your area to demonstrate how deep and audacious and visible the work that you're trying to educate people out of and support people out of continues to occur. And your organization, the work that you're doing there locally, as you mentioned earlier, you're not shy. Like, somebody has to say the thing. Somebody has to speak the truth. That's a capital T truth.
Yeah.
And so talk about that work, how and why you got involved in it, and how does this relate and intersect with your work as a communicator?
Really, really good question. The connection there. So how did I get involved? Well, I was involved just as a member, going to meetings virtually because we were all virtual at that time. And I just really felt that there was more to do, that we could do more. And I was kind of pulling back from PRSA, wanted to be more involved in my community locally. And, kids are grown, so you have a little bit of time, semi-retired, have some time. And I had a vision. I had a vision that the NAACP could speak out and change hearts and minds, but also broaden our reach past Middletown. Middlesex County is like 14, is a city, Middletown, and 14 towns around us. And we really don't reach or touch people in those towns. And I think it's important for us to do that. Now, those towns are mostly white towns. They don't even know we exist, many of them, okay? But it's going to take some time for us to move in that area. Now, getting back to what's happening here in Middletown, I showed you video of a couple who took it upon themselves to, I called it racist trash talk to a landscaping crew, gentleman who it was his business, landscaping business. He was doing his job, and this couple just behaved badly. It went viral, even internationally, actually, I think. And so I needed to write about that, and we needed to do something about it. Yes, the mayor did something about it. They were arrested. I'm not sure what the charge was. It should have been a hate crime, but
Yes,
things like that happen. That's very visible. But the things that happen that are not visible are the things that we hear about, that I hear about. Parents calling me about their children being targeted in school. Administrators and teachers calling me about being harassed by whether other white teachers or colleagues. people who are employed in stores, and things happen in stores. Now, we are not attorneys. What we can do is recommend, offer resources, but mostly show support. That that I know means a lot to people. Also, show up. Just show up. We had a situation where three Republican candidates just they have a public access show called The Variety Show. I'm like, okay, variety show. This isn't Carol Burnett, okay? And really, they are three people who are technically adults who act like children, going back and forth, um, talking about Black people, talking about women, misogyny, racism, and one of the people was Black. Now these folks are running for Common Council, and one is running for Common Council and running for Board of Education because they want to be sure to get in there, And it was amazing that they didn't think that the things they were saying that God, that the government was a Black woman's daddy or baby daddy, would say things like that.
Wow.
And this came from the mouth of the Black man who wants to be a part of running this city. That's a problem. And this stuff happened just before we went to Nashville. Thank goodness there are people in town. We had a person who was on the Common Council, held a press conference and said, look, this is not good. I asked the NAACP, we were there. I had representatives there from NAACP and other city council and other people there to say, this is not who we are. So again, making sure that we take a stand, that we're visible, and that people, we're not going to let you get away with that. There are so many things that are underneath. And a message that I tried to send, I wrote a letter to people. I'll send it to you. When someone says these things are happening to them, believe them.
Yes.
Believe them. That's half the problem. And we try to mediate, and people try to tiptoe around it, and unions, tiptoe and protect their union members. I'm like, no, you need to go. But you also don't need to be passed on to another school or another organization to do the same thing and terrorize other people. There are things that happen to our children when they were small because there wasn't someone in the room. Imagine, and this was, years ago, but imagine, I love the story. And I have this picture of my son. It was picture day. They take the picture and then they send the sample picture home and say, which one do you like? And I'm looking at the picture. My husband says, he just says, here's the picture. He doesn't say a word. And I'm looking at the picture and there is a rope over his shoulder. And I'm like, who thought it was a good idea to put like a lasso or rope over a young Black boy's shoulder, looking like a noose? Who thought that was a good idea? Nobody was in the room. And when I went to the principal, she didn't see anything wrong with it. And there needs to be people in the room.
Yeah.
Or arguing with a principal about getting your child into AP courses because they can do it, but they want to track our kids and put them in the lower courses, and fighting with them to do that. I shouldn't have to fight. Parents shouldn't have to fight. And it was so satisfying to me when I went back to that principal and said, guess what? He's an accountant now. You tried to keep him out of AP math. but he's an accountant now, working for a Fortune 500 company. So, and this is a two-parent family. It has nothing to do with your standing in the community, so to speak. I am Black. My kids are Black. I live in a neighborhood where we have nice houses. The same things happen to my kids that happen to other kids who might live on the north end of town. It is not any different. So I fight for them. I fight for all of our children. And that's my focus. We're having a retreat this weekend to plan for 2024 and to work with the school system to make sure they know that we're here, to make sure I call myself the accountability angel, working with the city who has major issues, major DEI issues, has had them for years, and they need to deal with it now. Should have been dealt with years ago, but they need to deal with it now, not as a one-off, but as a 2-year long process to clean up and purge a lot of stuff that's been going on in the city. So as the NAACP, I really do think it's our job to check on folks. We Ben Crump hasn't come into our area yet, because these are the things, the soft things. When Ben Crump gets involved, those are that's the hard stuff. The woman whose son was killed by a police car by an accident, buried, and nobody ever told her about. Yeah, that Ben Crump needs to come in here and do that. He came in with a situation we had in New Haven. Brandy Cox is in the police cruiser, right? Paralyzed for life. Okay. And so that's very visible. We see that. But there's so many things that are going on underneath. And it can be, I've had situations and times when I had to just sit back and like, okay, woosah, because it's heavy. You want to help. And there's so much, yet there's so much that we can't do. There's a lot of stuff in the way. There's a lot of politics in the way. There's a lot of nepotism in the way. There's a lot of red tape in the way. And you need to have people around you who will support you and who will surround you with love and grace and understanding, and also who will take some of that weight. Because as president, I feel a responsibility. I feel a real responsibility to help people, as do, I think, certainly my executive team and committee members. There's a lot of work to be done, and hopefully we can just make a dent and open the door. And when you talk about communicating authentic, let's stop lying to each other.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah, that's a good place to communicate like you give a damn. Okay. I love that. Oh my gosh, I am so going to use that, Kim. I am so going to use that. I'll give you props, okay, but I'm definitely using that
Thank you.
as I move forward.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my last question is, what does it look like to communicate like you give a damn, or what does it sound like? And it sounds like stop lying.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Tell the
mean,
truth.
when you have city government that is so used to going around whatever policies have been set in order to kind of give opportunities to just some folks, And that's like standard operating procedure for people. And you see this stuff and you're like, wait a minute, you were the head of zoning and you changed a law, a policy, so your friend could get something done. I mean, a 5-year-old would tell you that's wrong. Okay.
Right. Right.
Don't lie. Don't lie to me. I wrote a piece, I think in 2018 for ethics for BEPS. And it was about ethics is everything. It's all the things you learned in kindergarten. You know, don't lie. Remember Pinocchio?
Yeah, and we add this complexity to support our own actions, rationalize them, legalize
Right.
them, remain ignorant for some of us, and so that's where the
Yeah, and
partnership and advocacy needs to come in.
it's
And
frustrating.
like I'm a member of our local NAACP chapter, and I know
Right.
the president. She's a friend of mine. We've known each other for years. And she participates in a lot of very visible events and sponsoring. So she works very, very hard in this primarily white community that I live in, as woo-woo as it is. As you walk downtown, you'll trip over somebody that does Reiki and massage therapy every 5 steps. But but as far as racial diversity, that is not as common. I think we're around 2% in our census. And so it's atrociously low. But that's something that my friend who's the president of the local chapter is trying to change, obviously, to make this place, more attractive for people of color, and continue to work with those of us to make sure it's kind of like it's not too different than what DEI work can be from an HR standpoint within an organization. It's like before she goes out and does the recruiting, she's making sure that this is going to be an inclusive place to retain and grow.
Yeah, right. We have that issue with the school system. Yes, we need more teachers of color, but when you recruit people, you need to be sure you have support systems for folks. Where are the churches? Where am I going to get my hair done? Where am I going to, all these
Exactly.
things.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Anita, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you for all of the work that you've done and the trajectory that you've put PRSA on, and those of us who follow your work. Thank you for taking the hits, and speaking up, being a role model for those of us like me who need to speak up more and get more of our feet and confidence in speaking up, even if we make mistakes. When we make mistakes, that's part of the process. And we need to keep going and advocating. So thank you so much. How can people continue to learn from you, follow you, staying connected with you?
Oh, it's I'm so busy doing other stuff. Well, Instagram, I'm gonna re-up my Instagram, AFScom, and Facebook. Certainly, I've kind of gotten off of X.
Janet and I left as soon as Elon Musk bought it, so we're not. Yeah.
And
I'm not.
right.
I'm not really into giving my content over to somebody like that. No.
So I've kind of decided that I'm going to use Instagram a lot more, and I got to give a shout out to DEI, to Marsha Pitts-Phillip and Patrick McSweeney and Jaron Terry and everybody who has come before, because it has been a team effort. Shanita, Felicia, Andrea, Patrick, me, and Marsha and Patrick are the current chairs now.
Great.
And hopefully Raquel will come along, and Renee, they're vice chairs and will take over. And there's strength in how we've done this and how we support each other. And so that's really important. So your friend who was the head of the NAACP, give her a hug, because she needs that. just to know that
You
you're
bet.
there, that there are other people there, that will give her some strength. Because what we've built with the PRSA DEI committee is that foundation, that leadership. Okay. People who really know how to lead and allow people to use their gifts to lead as well. It really takes a team, and it's a phenomenal team. And shout out to Janine Garcia. Oh my gosh, Janine, what would we do without Janine, who is our PRSA liaison, when we come up with these ideas? And she very calmly says,
That is a beautiful
okay.
skill.
Yeah, right. Okay, Anita, you want to have a party at the top of the Empire State Building? Let's think about that.
Let's game this out.
Yeah. You know, she is our rock. She really is our rock.
We all
We
need a
adore her
Janine.
together. Yeah, Janine Garcia. So I have to get a shout out to Janine.
And you're on LinkedIn as well. So,
Yes, I am on LinkedIn.
So read the book. Anita
Yes.
has endorsed it and given us her blessing on it. Let it help you build the infrastructure and team that Anita talked about. Learn more about, okay, are we still in the stage of performative communications like Anita was talking about early on in the committee? And it's a place to start, but we don't stay there. That's the point. It's like, get to where, and then let's work on what you have control over and what is before you to do. It's an incremental thing, no different than a product iteration. And so you're constantly improving. And so when you know better, you do better, as Dr. Maya Angelou talks about. So Anita, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and being on this podcast. It's an honor.
A wonderful, wonderful time. I so enjoyed this. Thanks so much, Kim.
So what popped out to you from the conversation? The more conscious communicators in the world, the better the world. So go to communicatelikeyougivadamnpodcast.com and set up a one-on-one strategy session. And until next time, let's keep taking care of each other.